Um,
So the
so we're going back to breaking points. I've talked about breaking points before. I generally like them. My boy Ryan Grimm, I don't think is going to be on this panel. Um, but this is from yesterday. So as I'm sure a lot of people know, so Congress recently voted on the War Powers Resolution and it failed. And I don't know. I was almost a little surprised just because of how unpopular the war is, but I guess the American government doesn't feel in any way responsible to the people anymore. That they would have enough of their representatives vote in favor of ending the war. Even if they did pass it, Trump would have vetoed it, and even if they got a super majority and overruled the veto, he probably wouldn't have stopped it anyway. So it's not like it would have had an actual impact on the war, but it does, I think, give an insight into how our well, how this is basically kind of bipartisan as well, because four Democrats, is my understanding, went along with it. But let's see what Breaking Points has to say. Congress backs Iran war, Massey unloads, and Schumer caves. Classic, right?
Senate voted yesterday on this war powers resolution. We could put this up on the screen. It failed effectively along party lines. You had Fetterman voting with the Republicans, Rand Paul.
Fetterman, God, get out of here. Go wander into a cave or something. Go find a cave, lay in it for a while, and have some, I don't know, like Odyssey style like someone from the Odyssey come and find you, you big ogre, and I don't know what did they do in that story, the Iliad or whatever. He like tricked him into like no, I don't know, whatever. Bad analogy, but John Fetterman, get the fuck out of the Democratic Party. You suck.
All voting with the Democrats, and so it failed 47 to 53. And I think it's noteworthy, both that you had all the Democrats except Fetterman hang together, but more importantly, there's been a lot of talk, and you see a lot of kind of like MAGA influence, or some number of MAGA influencers. Megyn Kelly, right? Obviously, Nick Fuentes and Alex Jones are opposed to this. You see some people like that. The War Room people are uncomfortable with what's going on. So you see a lot of like loud voices who are on the right, who are opposed to this war with Iran. But if you look at the polling, the Republican base, they're largely on board with it.
Oh, yeah.
Are
It is
they?
more of an online phenomenon, the opposition, than the
Interesting.
reality among the Republican base, which just says, like, basically, oh, Trump is doing
What's
this,
the
so
polling
we
on it?
support it. So I think the fact that the Republicans hung together.
Sorry, I gotta look up Iran war support Republicans. We gotta see what the 1 in 4 total. Uh, all adults support, yes, 27%. Republicans, 55%. That's not that much, though. I mean, like the base of okay, Donald Trump's like actual, base, the core diehard people, right? Like 20 to 30% of people are always going to be for him. And then you got an extra 25 to 35% on top of that. Those are probably just unaware people who are this is number is going to go down real fast, but still 55%, okay. Let's say we lived in an actual democracy. 55% of Republicans are in favor, 13% are opposed, 32% abstain. That means at least 13% of them should have voted that they like yes, I guess, on the war powers resolution. They should have voted that they want to end the war. That would have equated to about like 25, 26 people. Um, Clearly that did not happen. Or oh, sorry, this is the Senate. The Senate, sorry. So that would be uh, like 13 people should have voted to pass it, I guess. So yeah, I don't know.
Together and did not.
We don't live in a democracy. Like and then also like 100% of Democrats should have voted.
Remember, this is not even about like authorizing war. This is a vote to say like this power rests with us. That even the Susan Collins of the world, who is very likely to get her clock cleaned by Graham Plattner in the fall,
Ooh, clock
even
cleaning.
they felt like
That's some good YouTube content. Go check out clock cleaning videos.
right political calculus was to vote against this. Now you have to factor into that not only the like political base and the fear of Trump and his ire, you also have to factor into that the money from AIPAC and other
ideology,
Israel lobby types. And the ideology too, that's a great point too, is some of these people just genuinely believe in endless war. Many of them genuinely believe in endless war. And so that's how you end up with a situation where even though you have, some 70% of the country that is like, no, we don't want this, you still have every Republican Senate, save for Rand Paul, saying, we're going to let the president do whatever he wants.
Right, and that is the scary part. To stick on that, one of the things I personally hate is people wish casting analysis. So there's been, like you just said,
I do that sometimes.
This is a screw you to the base. And I never use those words. You know what I say? I say it's a screw you to the country. Yeah. Because the base is always going to stick with him. I grew up in Bush country. 5,000 U.S. troops were killed.
True.
They didn't care, okay? They all stuck with him till the end. He's my president. I'd like to have a beer with him. You remember all that? They said that till '09. That's what a lot of these people were saying. Today, they would all claim that they were all against it. Not true. I remember. But that's the reality. The base, they'll stick with him. Now, the rest of the country, independents, the 51%, let's say, who voted for him, that's a whole other story. Those are the people who are much more on the fence, people who are not self-identified actual Republicans. Many of them, one of the things that can explain this number is when you start self-identifying other than as a Republican and then you disagree, it shoots the Republican number support up for the war. But let's not make any mistake that all of these people are loyal to Donald Trump and to party ideology itself. I will say in the Senate case vote, what you see with the Susan Collins and the Murkowskis and all of them is I actually think Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, they vote against Trump all the time. All the time, right? And they've been able to survive. It's very telling to me that the one thing they won't vote against him on is Iran, because they support the operation line. I don't think that we can adequately
bipartisan. It's bipartisan. When it comes to the people who hold power, it's bipartisan.
The way that in Washington brain, this is a justified operation to the extent that it's gone bad. It's because Trump hasn't done it the process way, properly.
He didn't brief us.
Yeah, he didn't brief us properly. It's like, that's all they care about. They don't care about the fact that we're in a bad conflict, period, end of story. This is going to be just like 2004. The war Democrats, they're already emerging, and we're seeing some of this. And yes, just like 2003, there are only extremely limited, count on one hand the type of people who will speak out either against party or against ideology to say this is ridiculous. One of them is Congressman Thomas Massie. Here he is. Let's take a listen.
As to why we launched this preemptive war, the president says we had to strike first because an Iranian strike was imminent. Meanwhile, the Department of Defense conceded there was no evidence of an imminent Iranian strike.
It's coming in any day now. Any day that strike will be coming.
Some told us this war was about nuclear weapons, but 6 months ago, we were assured our last strike...
Hey, it's about everything and nothing. We live in Orwellian times. It's everything and nothing. We're going to war, but we're actually not at war. It's Orwell. It's just what we have to live through.
On Iran decimated their nuclear program. So which is it? I think the most candid answer came from the Secretary of State, who told the press that Israel forced our hand and dragged us into this war.
There is Congressman Thomas Massie. He's going to be one of the very few Republicans, if at all, who end up voting against it. And look, this is a valiant effort from Congressman Massie and from Ro Khanna, others, Tim Kaine, who forced the War Powers Act vote. But look, now let it all be on record. It's out there now. We can hold these people.
It is on record, but it is different than if they would have voted on it before it happened. And I think that they should have still voted on it before it happened. But again, it doesn't really matter. It wouldn't have stopped Trump regardless, but it is good to have the names.
Did not even want to vote for the ability
just because this is going to be incredibly unpopular in the future. This might be the most unpopular. If you thought Iraq is unpopular now, imagine in 10 years, what this is going to be. This is going to be so much worse. There's going to probably be a lot more death and destruction, chaos around the region, probably potentially, especially if they go boots on the ground, there will be significantly more American casualties, tens of thousands. It's going to be bad. And so it is good to have all of their names on record, at least right now.
to vote whether this is something that you have an interest in. Okay,
Pathetic.
we got you. We hear you loud and clear. What's going to come next is this supplemental funding, though. That's the big
Yeah,
question.
well, and that is the purpose of these votes. I mean, they're not even, imagine a world where they actually did pass the War Powers Resolution. It's not like we really think that that would constrain Trump.
That's
What
what I
this
said.
is about is putting people on the record for history so
Yeah.
that forever it is marked
Ugh,
down in the history
Consequences.
books. Who
Not just for history. Okay. It is good so that we can shame them later and vote them out of office, but there needs to be consequences. Not just voting out of office, not letting them get some cushy book deal. Like the people who voted, the people, like the names of the people who voted to against this, to stop it from passing, they at some point need to face actual real material consequences. If it goes as badly as I'm expecting it to go, and if it costs as much as I'm expecting it to cost, and if it kills as many Americans as I expect it to kill, and if it causes as much, as many war crimes as I expect it to cause, there needs to be real consequences. These people need to be thrown in jail for life. They should have most of them probably should have already been in jail for life. But, we live in a fake country with fake rules that nobody has to follow. So whatever. Ugh. Fuck,
did
sorry.
what when.
I need to stop getting so mad. I need to be fun. I'm supposed to be a fun YouTuber. I'm not supposed to be angry all the time. I just had to start streaming right whenever the Iran war was starting.
Because again, you're going to have so many people after the fact when this thing, I mean, it's already gone bad. I don't know how anyone's supporting it already, but when it is an undeniable, complete catastrophe, and Americans reject it overwhelmingly in a way that is, again, undeniable, you're going to have all kinds of people pretending they opposed it from the jump. So at least for these politicians, we can get them on the record. Where did you stand? What did you do at the beginning? Did you even have the guts to claim the power for Congress to weigh in on this thing? Or did you just say, yes, sir, Mr. President, whatever mayhem and madness you want to do, go ahead and go for it. So let's go and put C3 up on the screen, because to Sagar's point, the next battle is over. Funding. Now, have you heard anyone in the media say...
Let's have some predictions here. Are they going to actually fund this with taxes? Like what like I mean I think that we know the answer is going to be no. They're not going to raise taxes. Like that because it's all funny money. Like they're just going to borrow more debt, send the debt even higher. You know, we're already in a quote unquote debt crisis. It just invalidates, America's standing in the world as the world reserve currency a little bit more. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. But hey, maybe they'll surprise me. What if, hear me out, what if they said, we're going to pay for every dollar of this war by taxing the billionaires? Hey, if they did that, maybe people would be on board.
How will you pay for it? How will you pay for it? The roughly billion, probably more dollars a day that are being spent currently. The $50 billion reported supplemental funding that they're going to ask Congress for. This is Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, says Congress will pass Iran war funding when appropriate. So
when they
$50 billion more. What else could that $50 billion be spent on? Do you have any ideas in your
Medicare for
head?
all.
Maybe healthcare, maybe housing,
Ooh,
maybe education.
do you know how many houses I could buy with $50 million? Or 50 billion, sorry. Billion.
Maybe infrastructure, maybe jobs, all kinds of things
Who needs
that could be done with
infrastructure?
this $50 billion rather than, killing little
Who needs infrastructure when you can build bombs? Who needs roads? Just bombs, 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 bombs.
girls in Iran or risking our service members' lives in the Middle East? Seems like the American taxpayers probably have some better ideas of how they would like these funds to be spent. And yet, from the quote-unquote opposition party, you can put this up on the screen, Politico reached out to a bunch of senators on the Democratic side to say,
They're going to pass it. They're going to pass it. Democrats, they love war, man. There's never been a war that Democrats have not been giddy about. They love it. It's their favorite thing.
You have expressed some concerns about this war, and all of the Democrats, save for Fetterman.
Oh, and Chuck Schumer, he is like, this is it. This is my time. Israel will ascend. It will take over the entire region, and then I can retire to some high rise in Tel Aviv, and it'll just be, oh, like he's like, this is my shot. Like we're doing this.
Expressed those concerns, and all of them, save for Fetterman, voted for the War Powers Resolution. What about this supplemental funding? Schumer, before you can feel satisfied about a supplemental, and I haven't seen it, you have to know what the real goals are and what the end game is. You see there, he's not ruling it out. He's saying,
Okay.
oh, we
sorry.
just need more information. We need a better briefing. Okay, again, process concern, not opposition. Delaware Senator Chris Coons, who absolutely sucks all the time, a senior Democratic appropriator, says he expects the Pentagon will send Congress a supplemental funding request and vowed to, quote, make sure we are making all the investments we can to keep U.S. troops safe. Coons said the Trump administration needs to testify at an open hearing so American people can get questions answered about the failures in planning that led to some of the challenges, losses, and mistakes in this war. Okay, so again, process, they need to.
Okay, sorry, real quick. I want to go over this with people just so that they have these names too. Okay, how each member voted on Trump's Iran war powers. These four Democrats, they voted no, okay? This is in the House. These were the four that I was talking about. They voted no. Henry Cuellar, Jared Golden, Greg Landsman, Juan Vargas, okay? Texas, Maine, Ohio, California, respectively. Go get them. If there's anybody watching this, go get them. They suck. Get them out of here. And then the Senate, I think it was just Fetterman, which we all know he sucks. Like the big ass ogre oaf needs to. I'm not going to say what I was going to say, but you can maybe you can guess. He's probably pretty close to it if you know what I mean, considering how his mental health sounds right now.
To speak to the American people, but ultimately he's going to fund it, is bottom line what he's saying there. Our friend Alyssa Slotkin, she said, I don't rule anything out, comma, I mean, we're in it. Tim Kaine also said something similar, even though he's been great on leading the push for this war powers resolution. But when it comes to funding the war that you claim to oppose, you're open to voting for the
rhetorical trickery. It's the best thing. They love it. Their favorite thing in the House and the Senate is rhetoric. They are rhetorically against the war, but they are materially for the war. We saw it a lot with Biden too. He was rhetorically against Israel, but he was materially for Israel. I don't know. They're all just liars. They're all cretins. Please, God, one day, can we just throw them in jail? And I've said before, we need to bring back the guillotines, dude. Like this isn't me, calling for violence or whatever. This is me saying that like we need to have crimes that are punishable by death. And it should only apply to those who hold immense power. And that is perfectly legal. We already do it to the poor. YouTube censors, if you're watching this, okay, I'm not advocating for anything except for a legal process by which these people can be out of our fucking lives forever. That's all.
funding of the war. I mean, this makes
If that was too base for you, YouTube, I'm sorry.
no sense. If you oppose the war, you oppose funding the war. It is that simple. And so the amount of, of capitulation, the amount of, frankly, ideological support from the Democratic Party is insane.
And to be a little bit more clear about that, I don't necessarily think just these bad votes on the War Powers resolution warrants that. Okay, there are certain people who are at the tippity top of the administration who are calling all the shots here. Not just in terms of Iran, but in terms of domestic policy as well. That, chop chop, you know what I'm saying?
They are so disconnected from the base of the party. And so with their vote on the War Powers resolution, the fact that they stayed lockstep, except for John Fetterman, that is a proof of how strongly, adamantly, the base is opposed to this thing. And not just from a you didn't brief us concern, but outright, directly opposed to this thing. They knew they could not vote against this War Powers resolution because there would be hell to pay from the base. Mm-hmm. You saw Mark Kelly say like, I don't know how I'm going to vote on this thing. And I guarantee you he got slammed with phone calls. And next thing you know, guess how he voted? He voted for it. So they are under tremendous pressure from the base. And yet they think they can get away with voting to fund this thing. It is. People
have to wake up. I think they're starting to. They have to wake up that this trickery that they do every single time. I hope to God it does not work. People should hopefully understand that they are voting to materially support the war by voting for funding.
Absolutely insane to me.
Well, trip down memory lane back in '07, Nancy Pelosi, you might remember this, where she tried to fund the Iraq, because it was right after the 2006 victory for the midterms. Pelosi was negotiating funding with the Bush administration. And what she did is she put a withdrawal timeline on the funding for the administration. But even that was something that many of the progressive Democrats who were inside at the time were saying. What they were saying is like, no, you need a much faster withdrawal timeline, because they didn't want to support the surge. Bush ended up vetoing it, and they did eventually win that entire funding battle, which of course kept American forces in Iraq. What they wanted to do was they wanted to fulfill their claim that they had, right, was basically, we ran on ending the war in Iraq, and the president now wants to surge troops in Iraq. We cannot then continue to fund what we ran against. But the moderate leaders in the Democratic Party, so-called, like Nancy Pelosi and others, who became the speaker, said, no, we can't do that because we have to play ball with the Bush administration. And so what they ended up doing, actually, was kind of knifing what had happened and continuing to fund that, not to mention what happened with Barack Obama. You're watching the exact same thing now play out. Is you can't say, especially in this case, Iraq was a whole other story, right? Because we had our troops on the ground, etc. Like, obviously many Democrats had voted for it. In this case, if you're going to be against it, then how can you continue to fund it? It's ridiculous, right? If you're saying that the best possible thing would be to force the administration's hand by saying, no, you can't have more money to continue operations, you need to figure out some sort of diplomatic solution, that is the best way to go about it. But they failed to do that under Bush. They also failed to do it multiple times under Obama. This is how the bipartisan consensus keeps going. And the more that the money is flowed, that's the only thing that allows the administration to continue to operate. That's the disaster, I think, that we're seeing.
Yeah,
at
and
so we have
it'll just be like, I don't know, we're getting to the point where the debt is just so high. It's going to topple over one of these days. And this is like, how much of the debt was created by like Iraq, like borrowing for Iraq? Like how much, like I'm sure it was a hefty portion of it. So we're going to be doing a lot more of that. I wouldn't be surprised if, well, whatever. What are we at? Like 39 trillion or something.
no war powers. I mean,
Second.
Glenn made this point, I thought it was so good, is that when the framers put together this idea of the Constitution,
39 trillion.
they actually
I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this we're up to like 45, 50 trillion.
theorize that the co-equal branches of government would fight as hard as they possibly could for maintaining their own institutional power within the system. And they actually never could have imagined that you would have an entire branch that would just hold up its hand and surrender to what was going on in the White House. And this is
That's because the framers of the Constitution were not Marxist. If they were Marxist, then they would have completely understood the idea of capital capture, and the inevitability of fascism. Like, this is where they should have just had, if they just had one guy, in the of the framers, one person in the room who is like, guys, I think we need to restrict, I think we need to restrict the amount that money can influence the politics, or else, eventually they'll all just capitulate to the fascist president. I think we got to do that. If there's just one guy there to convince them, man, it could have all been different. It could have all been different.
Is a political culture now which has been normalized over the last 25 years from Bush onward, because, and I want to make this the most, because they do not want to bear the political consequences of their actions. Even the Democrats, like you're saying, Mark Kelly and all these people, they'll vote for the War Powers Resolution. But the real fight is going to be on funding. The real fight is going to be on how you're actually working to make sure that this doesn't continue to happen. They're happy to take the vote to tell the base they didn't vote for it, but are you actually going to do everything to keep it away? No. And then same with many of the so-called anti-war Republicans. I mean, Josh Hawley,
they hate democracy so much. Okay, I'm done with Sagar. Whatever. Yeah, they're pretty annoying, the Dems. But also the Republicans, obviously. I hate the Republicans more, but the Democrats are, purportedly my party. They're purportedly supposed to represent me, and they never do anything that the base of support wants, so whatever.